Hey, my creative friends. Gonna get the hair out of my mouth. So, I'm Shannon from Shannon Studio, and I do a creative life tip video every day. Today, we are going to talk about my fabric collection. My fabric collection is in stores now, so I kind of wanted to go into the making and the inspiration of this particular fabric collection. So I thought that would be fun to do. I wanted to do it while we still have some daylight. We have about an hour. I think it said we have about an hour and a half. I think it said 2:30. No, 3:30. 3:30 is sunset here in Sweden. And so it's kind of cloudy today, so it'll get darker a little bit faster. So I wanted to have natural light just because fabrics and things look nicer and you get a clearer picture of colors when you have a little bit of natural light. So that's what we're gonna do, and that's why I'm a little bit early today. So first off, I believe I work for Windham Fabrics, and they have asked me to do florals, realistic florals. And so my lines have this floral aesthetic to them. And there is a certain template that I go through that they advise you to go through when you are creating a fabric collection. So the template is one main focal design. So for me, it's one main focal floral. And I usually do a packed floral, something that has all the floral pieces that are going to be in the collection in the main one. And so they want one floral main focal point fabric. They want two secondary fabrics, and for me that usually has some elements of smaller flowers. Third, they want 1 to 2, and the secondary fabrics are 2 to 3 designs. The novelty prints are 1 to 2 designs, and that to me kind of goes along and adds to the story I'm trying to tell with the fabric. So, and then there's like 1 or 2 blenders, and those are fabrics that don't compete with the other fabrics but kind of tie them together so that it's and it can tie them from one fabric color to a next. Like if something's pink and something's purple, sometimes they'll have pink and purple and the colors in it to tie them together. So that equals about 8 designs. And then they take those 8 designs and turn them into a collection, which is about 24 different fabrics and usually about 3 colorways. And so you end up with this nice full collection to work with. I also try to add something a little special, I think, to the fabrics to make it just a little bit different. So what I mean by that is like, for my first collection, Cottage Joy, this is, and I don't know if you can see it, it is little X's, white on white on the fabric. And I think I have yellow and green, I believe, and blue. And this is so they could make a cross stitch. And so I designed it to be a cross stitch that you didn't have to, it was already marked. You didn't have to mark per se the X's on it. So that's one of the ones I did. I think for love letters, and that's the name of this collection, is Love Letters. Love Letters, I did alphabet that you could cut up and you can make words and do some fun things with that. So those were so I try to do something a little special in the fabric collection to just make it something that you can play with a little bit more. So when you're designing a collection, one of the 2 things I think that you can't overlook, sometimes you can get away with some other design things you don't really have to do, but the one thing you have to do is scale, and that means you have to put something small, medium, and large, and then value. So you have to go from light, medium, and dark, so that when you put the quilts together or put the fabrics together for projects, that you have this little bit of contrast and things stand out, things push back. It's particularly with quilts. Windham's a quilt company. I mean, they're not a quilt company, they're a fabric company, but they like to have a lot of quilts and specialize in quilt fabrics, and they work with a lot of quilt stores, retail stores. And so when you do a quilt, you like your pattern to stand out from the background, or to have a little play in it, and the value does that. So you have to have light, medium, and dark. So So then when that's the template I start out with to use for designing. Then what I do is I try to think of a name, a story, and a theme right off. And with Cottage Joy, it was a song, and it was about cottages and love at home and all that. With Love Letters, I picked the theme to be around Layla. Layla's my daughter who passed away. So she had a brand color, teal, and she wore it. She had her purse, her bag. She just had a lot of teal things. So those were elements that I wanted to work with. So what I did then next is I went and did research. And I do research by having a couple Pinterest boards. And what I do is, with the general idea in mind, I will go through and look at images. One, because I want to see what's already done and try not to do the same thing. Second, it gives me an idea of what the fabrics and what the trending is. So you want to kind of look what trending is out there. So I do research with that as well. So what I do is I get two boards when I do my research. I get an inspiration board, and hi Jackie. So I do an inspiration board. So I gather all kinds of different inspiration that goes with the theme and the story. And it can be anything, because I'm building a whole, it's not just the story of the collection, it's going to be things that happen to go with all of it. So projects and how I want to present something. So when I do the research, I do a broad research, and I put it all on my inspiration board on my Pinterest account. It's a secret board. Then I also at the same time do the lookbook. And a lookbook is, trying to see if we have the lookbooks. Let me see. Lookbook is where you take the fabric, and of course I don't have one out. So there it is. So they call it a lookbook. I don't have Love Letters lookbook, but I have Cottage Joy lookbook. So what it is, it's a lookbook of projects inside and quilts that the reps will take out with them when they go to the different retail stores and people want to order. So then they have something to look at and go, oh, I can see how that fabric will be used. I can see how I would want to use it. So we do a lookbook. So that's why I start in the beginning, because there's an end goal to what I'm doing. So if I can design from the beginning, then it will help make decisions along the way. So those are my inspiration board. I mean, my inspiration, my research boards, the inspiration board and the lookbook board. Because when I'm doing this, I have to make quilts. I have to do projects. I have to pick a color palette and all those kinds of things. So researching for me is really a big deal. And usually I start with words, looking up words that are associated with the theme and the story. So it goes through this big process of research. So for Love Letters, what I did, I came down to doing some florals, naturally. Then I did novelty, I did cameras and suitcases, because she liked to take pictures with everyone, and then she'd like to travel. So I did that, and as part of the collection. And then I also did mini envelopes, because one of the big things is that she had teal letters, and she would send off a letter, and sometimes she would write on it, because everyone should get a teal envelope at least once in a while. So she had that written on there, I think, to her friend Jill. It was the one I saw last. And so all that stuff was going to be tied into what I'm doing. So I make all the designs, put them all together, then I send them off to Windham. And then Windham gets with their people, the sales, the designer, they get all together, and then they start talking about the collection that I sent in. And the original name for the collection was Choose to Be Happy, because that was one of Layla's themes that she always said. And she actually called up her sister almost a year and a half, 2 years almost, mostly every single day, talking to her about choosing to be happy, because her little sister was not in a happy place at that point. So she was always trying to do that. So that was kind of her theme. So I was trying to incorporate that. So then when I got the information back from Windham, the designs the cameras and the suitcases were too strong. They were almost like focal point fabrics. So we had to take those out. Then, so we were left with letters, and I did ladybugs because, I don't know, I just kind of I tried to put in a live element, a live element with the florals to bring in some life to it. And the other one I did bees. The first collection, Cottage Shore, I did bees, and this one I did ladybugs. And it kind of reminded me, ladybug, fly away home. Anyways, so they said, let's keep the envelopes and the ladybugs and the alphabet. And I wanted the alphabet because it was something fun, and it went with, and I think I did that. I didn't turn that one in yet. So then also they said, well, why don't we change, because it doesn't look like Choose to Be Happy. The first collection looks like more happy, and when I was at Quilt Market, they often said, that's so happy. And so that reads happy, but this one read a little bit differently. And when they said it doesn't really feel like Choose to Be Happy, and she said, Laura from Windham, she said to me, well, how about love letters? And I'm like, that's perfect. So there's this give and take when you work with a company, because they're looking at their experience and bringing that to the table. They're looking at what they need to have in order to sell, and so they bring that to the table. You as an artist bring your ideas and your storytelling and different elements too. But it's really nice to be able to work together so that you can bring the best collection to out into the world. So we changed the name, took out the cameras, took out the suitcases, kept the alphabet, the ladybugs, and the envelopes. And so then they were truly novelty prints that didn't take over, because nothing in the fabric collection should take over more than the main focal point. So then let's see, where do we go from there? We have the fabric projects. So I have to keep in mind fabric projects at the end as well as the quilts. And when I'm going through, I have my little idea book, which if you've been following me, you know we've had a video about having an idea book, and it's like in the 70s, the video, 70 or 72 or something like that. So what I do is I have a surface pattern design book, and in it I will have different lists of things of what I want to do, and then I have like quilts. Some of them are my own designs. Well, these would be my own designs. So I have quilts and things I think that would be fun to do. And then, so I have that in my research and things I'm doing. So then also what you have to do is to compare this collection to the last collection. So you can see this one's more cooler colors. The blue is different. This one has a blue, but it's like a French blue. This is like an aqua blue. So you kind of have to check that it doesn't look exactly like the last collection, but that there's enough similarities where you could pull fabrics from both collections to use them together. And so you have to sit and compare once you start doing things. Then, let's see, you go through that, you get your story, you get your theme, you have your ideas, you have a color palette. That's what you have to pull in next, is to make sure you have a color palette and that you have enough colors in the 24 fabrics to be able to have a colorway. So this particular collection has pink and purple and blue. It's like, what is pink, purple, and blue? And so, let's see, I think, and then once the fabric comes in, so what happens then next is that we talk about it, then we come up with decisions. Then once we make the decisions, it's sent off to get strike-offs. Strike-offs are little, well, first off, they send me a paper version in colors. and then I look it through the paper version, and then we talk again. Then they send off the strike-offs. That's actual fabric in smaller chunks coming and getting to see them. So then we do the strike-offs, talk about those, make decisions there, then everything gets approved, then they send it off and they get some fabric made. Now, when they get the fabric made, they send me fabric and they keep fabric. And it is a small run. And what we do is we send out fabric to other makers, to people who make quilts or clothes or projects or bags or anything. And then they take the fabric, and it's not out in the stores yet. So they take the fabric and then they make things out of it. So, and it depends on the fabric designer, how much control they want to have over it. Some fabric designers don't really care to do any of that. For me, that's a really fun, creative part, so I take more involvement in it. So what will happen is I will get fabrics, and then I will contact people, and some of the people that I've been doing this with have already done the 2 collections, and I'm hoping they'll do the 3rd collection. So we will talk about different ideas they might have, depending on the different people. Some people bring me ideas like, oh, like Stephanie Atwood brought me the pinwheel quilt because she thought they would be really cute with the ladybugs like they were flying. So we have discussions. Nanette from Chenille It, she has chenille where you sew it on the top and then you fluff it up, and it's like those old school chenille blankets. And so she has patterns that we look at to be able to pull from that, because I just love that texture, and so I always try to make sure she gets something because she does fabulous work as well. So we get, so I'm looking at Joseph. So we get, so I start mailing out fabric, and that is a huge job. I didn't realize how huge that job was, but you start mailing out fabric to all the people. And then what happens is they will make the project, and then they will mail the project back to me. Now, most of the time, then I photograph it, and I, do some stills with people or with things, and just get pages ready for the lookbook, and that I can share later on. So they send me those quotes. I do those photography. I do that photography. Last one of the Cottage Joy, I had someone help me. McKay helped me do the lookbook for that and do photography for that, and that was so nice. This, with Love Letters, I did it. So then after I do all the photographs, then I send back the quilts, because they get to keep the quilts or the dresses or whatever, unless I've made prior arrangements, or unless the person makes so many quilts they don't need another quilt, and I get the quilts. So I have a few quilts, which makes it really nice, because what happens is this window that I'm working in, when we get the fabric after the strike-offs, fabric to make projects, is like a month and a half. And so it's a tight window. And so I don't often make a lot of quilts myself. I make maybe 1, maybe 2. And sometimes I'll do an outfit or 2. But the majority of the things are being done by other people. So once that process of making all those projects, and we've got them mailed back or put aside, then I go in and design the lookbook. And then we put the projects in and everything else. And then I send it off to Windham, and then they will make any changes they want in the lookbook. And then they get it printed out, and then they print it out for their reps to take around to the retail stores. So I think, and before that too, we design a selvage edge, which is a selvaged edge is this little edge right here where it says the fabric name, Windham, and then my name. So that even has to be designed. So there's just a boatload of work that goes into a fabric design, boatload. And it just is go, go, go in short spurts of time. And then the other times you don't even, you might not even think about it, or you're off to doing other things. But what it ends up, the lookbook ends up being, I think both of mine had like 11, 12, 13 quilts. That's a lot of quilts. and then like 5 dresses or so. And even some of the stuff doesn't end up in the lookbook. So like for instance, this quilt is a 9 patch. It's a, I want to say sick bug, but I think that's it. So it has little ladybugs, but then it's like the cross and this. So this one didn't even end up in the lookbook, but I kind of wanted to do it to see. And the lookbook's really supposed to inspire people. So I'm just going to show you a couple of the quilts. I think I've shown you this before. This is one of my favorites. Stephanie Atwood did this one. It is Crimson and Tape pattern Love Notes. Yeah, I'm going to probably be mad at myself later, but and here again, here's the blenders. The stripe is one of the blenders because then you can use it on the edge, or it's a step back fabric. So, and then on the back, the love letters, the alphabet. So that's one of them to be inspired by. I think this is another one by Stephanie. I want to say this is Meadowland. And Stephanie really likes to do the kind of old-fashioned quilts where you kind of just add different fabrics. And I'm more of a matchy-matchy, so I picked out this one. And then she picked out this one. So you can see, so we try to do things that will be appealing to different people. So if you don't like matchy-matchy, then we've got you covered too. And so that's one of them. And that pattern I think is Then Came June, I think it is. This pattern is also Then Came June, and I love this one. What I did with this one is, I didn't make this one. Nancy, Hugo, Carrie, Prince made it, but I switched the fabrics around. On her pattern, Then Came June, she put fabric pattern here and plain bubbles, top bubbles. But I really wanted to have it reversed and have the top bubbles. And I also used the X's, right? I think you can see it. So you could cross stitch in the middle. But I didn't tell Nancy or Carrie about that. So they cross stitch. I said, would you cross stitch in it? And they did, but they didn't use the squares. So it still works. I mean, they didn't use the X's. It still works, but it's just funny to me. When you're communicating, it's difficult. You have to be really careful and clear when you're communicating with people, because especially over the phone or over text and messages, because something like that. It's just a simple thing. When I say cross stitch, I haven't explained to them that, the X's, use the X's that are already there. So let's see. Here's a couple of the projects. So there's one project with the love letters, and then the back is the stripes. Then this one is another one, and you can add different details. So like I stitched this, but this is the Cottage Joy fabric. So I used the actual X's and then put the love for love letters. So that's a project. Then I'm going to show you these quilts. Because what happens is, I better stand close when I explain it. When you do quilts, they would like you to do quilt patterns as well. So I've done a couple of quilt patterns, and it was interesting to me to see how the same quilt pattern looks different with the different fabrics. So this one is Pocketful of Sunshine, and I designed this for this quilt. So I designed it to take advantage of that fabric that is the cross stitch fabric, because the cross stitch fabric goes all the way across. So you can do a pretty long project. And then plus, here's the green cross stitch. So I did the little suns. Well, actually Megan did the suns on this. And then you can actually put things in the pockets. You can put letters, you can put candies, you can put little special notes. So it's just a little surprise element that I wanted to add. So that was the first collection, and that was Cottage Joy, and that's what it looked like. So then So then this is what it looks like with love letters. So I did the quilts are kind of bulky. So I did the cross stitch in love letters, said love letters. I did the pockets, the same sort of thing with the pockets, the sun, and then the little pockets. So they look entirely different with the different colorways. So it's just fun to see how the same quilt will play out. And since it's my own pattern, I wanted to see how it goes. So let's see. I think that was it. I just want to show you. So this was the quilt for the one, and I went through, and then I showed you already, and that's how it turns out. So then it actually goes from idea to actuality. It's just cool. The whole process of this doing fabric collections. Oh, and I didn't even get to the dresses. The dresses are darling. When you, let's see, there's one Southern Belle dress by, oh, what is her name? I'm going to be really mad. I didn't remember her name. Oh, Laura Nash from So Chic Patterns. So Chic Patterns. It's this like old school dress that really fits the style of the fabrics. And I did one for Samantha for her, or she did the dress. Laura did the dress, sent it for Samantha for her bridal shower, and it was just sweet. So this whole process of a fabric collection just like takes over your life. It is all-encompassing for, like I said, short periods of time, and it just, there's so much to think about. But then again, it's so exciting, it's so fun when you go from designs in your little black book, or your little idea book, I should say, into actual fabrics, and then you start having projects, and it's just so much fun. But since the fabric came out, also, with all the fun, I want a reality check here. That it is so much fun, but you can so easily get your head below water and just barely keeping it above water. I think anybody who does the fabric collection and does all aspects of it, even for just parts of it, it's still, like I said, so much work that it, like for instance, we were in Amman for 4 months, came home. And during that time, we were home for 3 months. We were getting ready to come to Sweden for 2 years. My husband wasn't home that whole time. Then we did the adoption. We did, which means you got to fix the projects in the house. We did, Samantha got married, and we just had the fabric show up and all that too. So it doesn't always lend itself to be convenient in your life, because then you just got to get all in. You just got to jump in and start doing things, and it can be like overwhelm of all that goes on. But you always have to keep in mind the end goal, that it's going to be okay, it's going to work out. You can only do what you can do, so just do your best. And it does, it works out. The fabric collection works out, the lookbook works out, the whole thing works out. So since my second fabric collection, Love Letters, is in stores, shipping to other stores, I wanted to kind of go through that process, because some people have asked me about the process, and it is an interesting process. It's an interesting job. Windham is a fabric. Windham Fabric is a fabulous company to work for. They work with the artists. They let the artists really do a lot of what they want to do. And it's just, they've been terrific to work with. So with that, I know this has been a super long video, but I think it will be really fun and beneficial to some people. And even if you're not thinking about doing fabric collections, at least you can see that kind of process and learn something new in the process. I think that's it. If you have any questions about it, I'm sure I was not clear on some things. So if you have any questions, or you didn't understand something that I said, go ahead and ask questions. Any suggestions, go ahead and do that too. I think that's it. I'm looking at my notes. Yep, I think that's it. So, take a breath. So remember, you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it. And I will go back to my projects for today. I hope you have a good day. See you tomorrow. Bye.